So, today, the United States celebrates exactly 250 years of independence. You can probably picture it right now, right? The fireworks lighting up the night sky, flags waving on pretty much every porch, all those grand speeches about liberty and freedom. But, well, there's a pretty dark, quiet reality hiding behind all that celebration. See, while the country is busy celebrating 2.5 centuries of national freedom, the vast majority of people standing in their backyards watching those fireworks aren't actually free. In fact, they're basically hostages to their own paychecks.
It's a massive paradox. We champion this whole idea of independence, yet right now, between 60 and 65% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. We're completely financially trapped. It's like running on a treadmill that literally never stops or even slows down, no matter how hard you work.
So, in this explainer, we're going to look at why independence in America today is, for most folks, really just a word printed on a flag. And more importantly, we're going to break down what it actually means to declare your own financial independence, even if you're earning a totally average income. Because if your entire livelihood, your housing, and your family's security depends on that next direct deposit clearing on Friday morning, we really have to ask the hard question: are you actually free?
Part 1. The Modern Crown. Trading a king for a credit card. To really understand where we're at, we have to look at how control has shifted. Back in 1776, 13 colonies made this monumental decision. They decided they were absolutely done living under a power that controlled their lives, their taxes, and their futures from the outside. But 250 years later, that external control hasn't vanished. It's just evolved. It doesn't wear a crown anymore, it just pops up in your inbox as a monthly credit card statement. Total household debt in the U.S. just hit a staggering, record-breaking high of nearly $18.8 trillion. That's trillion with a T, spanning across mortgages, auto loans, and credit cards. We've basically traded taxation without representation for compounding interest without a way out.
And honestly, the reality gets a whole lot darker when you realize just how fragile the foundation of all this debt really is. 76% of American households have little to absolutely no emergency savings to fall back on. Just think about what that number actually means for a second. Over 3/4 of the population is walking a financial tightrope, and there's no safety net below them. Which brings us to a frankly terrifying practical reality. It means that more than half of the population couldn't cover a basic $1,000 emergency without sliding even further into the debt trap. I mean, if the transmission in the car blows, or the fridge quits working, or a kid needs to go to urgent care, that $1,000, it isn't coming from a savings account. It goes straight onto a piece of plastic, just adding to that almost $19 trillion mountain. Now, you might be thinking, oh, this is just a low-income problem, right? Actually, no. 4 out of 10 people making over $100,000 a year are trapped in this exact same cycle. It's not just about how much money you make, it's a lifestyle problem that silently grows at the exact same pace as your paycheck. Earning 6 figures definitely doesn't mean you're free if your lifestyle obligations just scale right up and eat every single dime of it. Part 2. Declaring your independence, the active choice. So here's the part they definitely don't tell you in those 4th of July speeches. Freedom is not granted. It is actively and sometimes defiantly declared. It was an active decision made by the colonies in spite of the massive risk, the uncertainty, and the fact that it would have been vastly easier to just keep things exactly as they were. And your financial independence? It works the exact same way. It's not going to be handed to you by a sudden raise at work or some stroke of luck or waiting for the broader economy to magically fix itself. It comes from a decision you actively make to break a very comfortable pattern, even if it brings you some short-term discomfort. You have to literally decide that you are done being a hostage. Part 3. 3 steps to freedom, escaping the cycle. Okay, so we need a practical survival guide here to stop this massive wealth transfer from your pocket straight to the banks and to reclaim your agency. We need to move from the abstract philosophy of independence to the absolute mathematics of it. There are 3 distinct, actionable steps you've got to take to stop accepting the normalization of consumer debt. And look, these aren't get-rich-quick schemes. These are the foundational moves to physically sever the chains of that paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. Step 1 is securing a $1,000 cash buffer. I know, in the grand scheme of things, $1,000 might sound pretty small, but psychologically and practically, it's a massive turning point. It's the exact thing that separates the people stuck in the emergency to debt cycle from the people who aren't. Once you have this buffer in place, you physically stop reaching for credit when life inevitably happens. That $1,000 is your first true declaration of independence. It buys you the breathing room to actually think.
And that brings us to step 2, which is exactly where those six-figure earners were getting totally trapped. You must aggressively resist lifestyle inflation. If you don't do this, every raise, every bonus, every single promotion just becomes automatic extra spending. You buy a slightly nicer car, rent a slightly bigger apartment, and suddenly you are trapped in the exact same financial stress just with much bigger bills to pay. The folks who actually escape this cycle are the ones who keep their lifestyle perfectly steady while their income grows, and they put that extra cash toward buying back their freedom. Which leads us to step 3, ruthlessly attacking your highest interest debt first. Once you have your cash buffer and you've capped your lifestyle, every spare dollar you generate becomes a weapon. And you need to point that weapon at the debt that's bleeding you dry the absolute fastest. You don't spread it around evenly, you target the most toxic debt first to neutralize the damage it's doing to your future. Think about it. With average credit card rates sitting at over 21% right now, paying that off is the absolute highest guaranteed return you are ever going to get anywhere. There is no stock market index fund, no real estate deal, and definitely no crypto coin that's going to guarantee you a risk-free 21% return year over year. Paying off that debt first isn't just a good idea. Mathematically, it is exactly how you stop the bleeding, outsmart the system, and take your power back.
Part 4, your final declaration. The choice is yours. 2.5 centuries ago, a group of ordinary people decided that living under someone else's control was simply no longer acceptable. That didn't happen because it was easy. It happened because they decided that freedom was worth the friction, the risk, and the discomfort of change. Your financial independence starts with that exact same kind of defining decision. So, as you hear the parades and watch the fireworks light up the sky today, I want you to ask yourself a very real question. Have you actually declared your independence, or are you still operating under someone else's control? The wealth transfer stops the second you decide it stops. Drop a comment below and let me know which of these 3 steps you are committing to put into practice this week. Make the choice, declare your independence, and take your life back.